Hey y'all, I'm Cat, and today I will be doing a tier list on Daedric quests. Now, just to let everybody know, this isn't a tier list on Daedric artifacts. I've already done that. I'll try to put that somewhere down below. This one is going to specifically be about the quest itself. So, spoiler alert, I will be talking about the plot lines of these quests. So, if you haven't played them already, please don't watch this video. Go and play through the Daedric quest. You can always come back later. I also just wanted to say these are my opinions, and I know I'm not the only person who has opinions, so obviously if you think differently, that's fine, and you can leave a comment below letting me know why you think differently. I'm completely open to that. You might even sway my opinion in some cases. So please don't feel angry or discouraged by what I think. Just let me know what you think. All right, now that that's out of the way, let's go. I wanted to start off with a night to remember, since those of you who watched my Daedric artifacts tier list can probably already gauge what I think about this one. It's not the standard, like, go kill this thing in this location kind of quest and then get a reward. It's Sanguine, who disguises himself as this guy Sam and convinces you to have a drinking contest and a night of debauchery. And you wake up and you don't know where you are or what you did the night before. And come to find out, you stole a goat, you married a hag raven. You know, I like the idea of uncertainty in the story. You're being led, you know, hand to hand, trying to figure out what you did the night before. It's comical, it's a little nerve-wracking. You don't know what kind of trouble you got into. And you know, at the end, you meet Sanguine in this really beautiful area, you know, and he tells you, hey, yeah, that stuff that I put on that list back at the temple, like, you don't need any of that. That was just nonsense. You didn't need to bring any of that here. So I know not everybody's gonna agree with me on this one, but I would put the Night to Remember in the S tier. Okay, so Azora's Quest, the Black Star. The story is about this mage who was obsessed with elongating his life, with lengthening his life, and he wanted to find a way in which to put himself into Azora's Star in order to basically live forever. So he used to be a mage for the College of Winterhold. He had a bunch of students that were on this project with him to try to figure out a way to get Azora's Star to accept these more powerful human souls into the star so that he could get into the star and live forever. And in the process of doing this, Azora just plagued him with all of these thoughts in his head, which made him go mad, and he ends up killing one of his students and gets kicked out of the college. But eventually he ends up moving his research elsewhere, and he finds a way to get himself into the star, and so he does, and then, you know, he's in there now, and you have to defeat him and pull him out in order to cleanse the star. I think the story does have quite a bit going on. I think it's a pretty cool concept. I don't think that it is the very best story on this list, and so I'm gonna put it in B tier because I really do appreciate it, but it just doesn't have as much going on as other stories on the list, so I just want to acknowledge that. Now I want to talk about the Cursed Tribe. This is Malacath's quest. In the Cursed Tribe, you end up getting these materials that the tribe needs to contact Malacath, and he says that he's displeased. He's displeased specifically, you know, with the chief and, you know, his worship. He's specifically angry that the chief has allowed giants to invade upon Malacath's shrine, and so he wants the chief to go and clear out the giants. So the chief looks at you and he says, well, why don't you come along with me since you got me into this in the first place? So then you go with him. The whole time he doesn't really seem too friendly. So then once you get to the grove where you have to kill the giant, the chief tells you, well, why don't you go kill him and you'll be rewarded if you go and kill him and retrieve the warhammer that we're supposed to get. So you go and you defeat him, and then once you defeat the giant, the chief turns on you because he says, oh, the rest of the tribe can't learn that I was a coward, so I gotta kill you now. So he attacks you, you kill him. So then you're in Malacath's favor, so he gives you Volendrung. You don't know for sure that the chief is going to betray you. I kind of got the sense that he would, just because he didn't really speak to me very favorably, so I don't think it was like a huge surprise when he attacked me out of nowhere. I just didn't really feel like there was a whole lot to this quest. I didn't feel like Malacath had a very heavy hand in any of it. I don't even think that he had the expectation that it would turn out the way that it did. But that being said, I don't hate this quest by any shape of the imagination. I mean, the chief being a coward kind of subverted expectations, being as there's, you know, orcs being stereotypically honest and uncowardly, and for him to like ask us to defeat the giant, that was sort of like, well, you know, every individual and all groups of people aren't exactly the same, even if these people subscribe to these ideals. And I think it was a very interesting element, that the fact that they added that in, that he wasn't like a stereotype. He wasn't a type. And I did appreciate that. But then obviously like the desire to cover up the cowardice was part of it, but he didn't perfectly adhere to like the stereotypical orc. You know, I thought that was really interesting. And I think that it definitely deserves to be in C tier. The next one I want to talk about is the House of Horrors. This is Moloch Baal's quest. Obviously, those of you who have started to know my taste and would know the elements of this story that I like, which is basically one. A house of horrors. It's in a haunted house. It's cool that a Daedric prince is haunting the house. And so you meet this vigilant of Stendarr outside the house, and you go in and everything just starts falling down and the house almost seems to be shaking. And then you find out that there is a Daedric prince in the bowels of the house, and you go down there and you approach this rusty mace, and then he entraps you in his little claw cage. And he tells you, well, I'm upset because the Daedric prince Boethiah has somehow like desecrated what's mine. And I don't really know what he's referring to. I don't know what the desecration was. It's not made plain to me, but he wants you to go seek revenge on a priest of Boethiah because of this desecration. So you have to go and you have to find this guy, and he's tied up somewhere with a bunch of Forsworn surrounding him. You have to fight them, untie him, bring him back. Moloch Baal wants you to just put him in this claw cage and just torture him with the mace. And that's what you do until the Daedric prince gets bored and says, all right. I'm not too enthusiastic about the quest. It's kind of simple. There's not much story there, and I just wasn't really that thrilled about it. The best part is the haunted house element, which I think is a cool concept. But other than that, I mean, it's basically go get this guy so you can torture him for a few minutes, and then I'll give you a fancy mace, and that's it. Because I did like the haunted house element, and I actually quite liked it a lot. So despite the fact that the story wasn't great, because I liked the concept of the haunted house being haunted by a Daedric prince so much, I decided to go ahead and put it in the E tier instead of the F tier. But had the haunted house not been an element, I'd probably have put it in F tier, just because it's just too simple. It's too straightforward, and there's just not really much going on there story-wise. And you don't really fight any interesting battles that you wouldn't have fought anyway. Like, you could go to that same area during other quest lines and fight the Forsworns. There's nothing different or unique about them. So it just wasn't anything special to me. Okay, so now I want to talk about the Taste of Death, which I think I gave you a little taste of in the Daedric Artifacts tier list.
Not good.
So Brother Varyless tells you that there's some sort of disturbance going on in the Hall of the Dead, and that the dead are being eaten or consumed in some sort of way. And you go in there and you find this woman, Iola, who's in there and tells you that she knows you have tasted death and that she is a cannibal, and that she wants you to go to this particular cave to clear out this sanctum. And so you go with her and you clear out the cave of these level Draugr. So then when you get there, you find out that this is like some sort of shrine to Nymeria. And at that point, Iola tells you, well, we need a sacrifice. So you need to go and get Brother Varyless and bring him back over here. The irony. So if you choose to do the quest and you go and you get Varyless and you bring him to the sanctum and you sacrifice him and then you eat him. And you actually find out that quite a few townsfolk are actually also cannibals. So it is once again a horrific kind of plot line. It's very much in line with the things that I enjoy. So I would actually rank this quest pretty high and put it in A tier. I think the plot line's kind of cool. I think that it would be better if Viola maybe left some to the imagination. Maybe said, exactly, I know you've tasted death. Like, maybe not tell you that she's a cannibal and she's eating people until you've actually cleared out, like, the cave. And then you realize that would have hit heavier and would have been better. But other than that, I think it's really cool. I think it's really cool to find out that, you know, people that you had maybe previously met were part of this sort of cannibal cult. You know, that the idea of that is just, whew. All right, the next quest I want to talk about is the Mind of Madness. Hear me out. I know that this quest isn't traditional. You get sent to another plane where you meet Sheogorath, and you find out that you're in the mind of an old emperor who's long dead named Pelagius. And you have to help him overcome his anger, his insecurities, his depression in order to free his mind. So this quest definitely puts Sheogorath in this position where he seems like a good guy. Now, I don't know things he may have done in the past, but in this quest, he seems to really want to quiet the mind of this person who is suffering. I do, of course, like the concept, especially because so many of the Daedric princes seem to take pleasure in the hardships of humanity. This seems like a different take. He definitely seems like he wants to help this man, that he wants to enlist you in helping this man. And I think that it's a nice message. And I understand that this isn't a quest where you know, fight a lot of things. I mean, you're given the Wabbajack, which is already a strange artifact, and you're asked to use it throughout the quest line in order to figure out these puzzles. I'm going to tell y'all right now, I would put this one in C tier, but I want to provide a little bit of explanation since it is a rather different quest. But the reason why I want to put it in C tier is because of its uniqueness, and also the fact that I personally love a good puzzle. And this quest definitely at least attempts to give me one. So I wouldn't judge anyone for putting this maybe lower on their list, or anyone for putting it higher. They just might appreciate puzzles even more than I do. Okay, so the next one I would like to talk about is Boethiah's Calling. So you go up to this mountain where people are worshiping Boethiah, and she tells you that she wants you to make a sacrifice at her altar. And for a moment I considered sacrificing Lydia, you know, for her attitude.
I am sworn to carry your burdens.
So once you make the sacrifice, Boethiah tells you that her previous champion displeases her and she wants you to go and reprimand him. And she tells you it's because he's using her gifts for his own amusement, and the only amusement she will tolerate is her own. Whatever that means. So you agree to go and defeat him, and he's quite difficult. He's quite difficult to defeat, wearing the ebony armor and everything. But once you defeat him, you have the armor, and you know that's about it. It's just another quest about a Daedric prince who's displeased with her, you know, champion. So then you can become her champion. You know, it's a cool quest. The environment that you find the worshippers at, the fact that you have to fight the other worshippers, the fact that you have to make this moral decision about who you're going to sacrifice to her, that is all very interesting. The cons, obviously, you have to sacrifice someone who would have been a follower. I do like a lot of elements about this quest, especially that you have a challenging fight to win with an enemy that is somewhat special. What I don't like is that the actual plot line is simplistic, and so I'm putting it in C tier. Now we have the Break of Dawn. This is the Daedric Prince Meridia. It's the one where she draws you up into the sky and tells you you need to cleanse the beacon. Basically, you go into her temple and you fight these shadow creatures, and then you touch these little white balls. So once you've defeated these shadow creatures and you've touched all of the white balls, you find in the depths of the temple the mage who's responsible for all of this, who's responsible for disturbing the dead of Skyrim and upsetting Meridia's temple, and you defeat him. And then once you defeat him, Meridia's happy and she gives you Dawnbreaker. So I think the plot line is a bit interesting. The idea that there's this necromancer in a temple who's bringing back dead warriors of Skyrim. I think that that's a cool concept. I also think it's cool when she, brings you into the air and you can see, a large amount of the continent beneath you. That's pretty cool. It's also pretty disturbing. I think that the fact that it's just that, you cleanse the temple, that's it. I don't think you get much background on the necromancer or his reasoning. If I'm wrong, please correct me. If I missed a book or something like that, please correct me. I want this quest to be better for me. So if you know more than I do, please let me know. But from what I know of it, that is it. And so therefore, I would put it in D tier. Okay, so are y'all ready for my opinion on the Whispering Door? This is Mathala's quest. When I say disappointing, I feel like that's an understatement. You find out about the Jarl's strange children from the bartender. And then you go and you investigate and you find out that one of his children has been hearing this lady like whispering to him through a door. And the lady has told him that he is an illegitimate son of the Jarl and that the Jarl actually, had an affair on his wife and that he is the product of that affair. And so you go and investigate this Whispering Door, and everything leading up to this is like, it's quite spooky. It's like, oh, there's someone behind this like door. Who is it? What's going on? It's all very creepy. The fact that there's like a lady behind there and all of that. So you get all this buildup and this tension to something that ultimately ends up not being much of anything at all. You go in there and, it's just a sword on a table. And it's a mighty fine sword. Don't get me wrong. It's a mighty fine sword. But that's where the plot really ends. You find out from a book that it's Mathala. I think this quest is really doing Mathala dirty. I don't know a whole lot about Mathala. I haven't finished all of the Elder Scrolls. Right now I'm currently going through Morrowind. If you want to see my Morrowind videos, I'll have a link to that in the description below. I've also played through Arena and Daggerfall. So I want to learn about the Daedric princes organically. And from what I know, Mathala is kind of a more spooky Daedric prince. She's the Daedric prince of webs and spiders. And she's sort of got this sort of creepy, feel about her. Every time I hear about her now, I think about the sounds of spiders moving in Skyrim. She's creepy, right? So the lead up to this quest is definitely appropriate, but then, they dangled this in front of us and then they gave us nothing. I just, no. I didn't like it. No. This is going to go in F tier. This is going to go in F tier, y'all. I can't. So now I want to talk about the only cure. This is Pyrite's quest. It's basically where, you get high and then you listen to him talk in your head. When you are in this state of talking to the Daedric prince, the world is like very brightly colored and you see this, skeever by you and all of these other little animals. It's kind of a cool little all fever dreamish scenario. So first he explains to you that he has created these infected that he has given this disease to, which he says is a blessing. How it's a blessing, I don't know. But he tells you that he sent one of his followers, or Chendar, to gather them in this Dwarven Ruin and, I guess keep them safe. I guess keep them safe, but instead Archendar decides to make them his personal warriors. And they actually never get to see or speak to or feel the presence of Pyrite at all while they're in there. So we are supposed to go in there and I guess free them. You don't actually free them. I don't understand how a puking disease is a blessing. But yeah, we go down into this Dwarven Ruin. It's a very tough quest. You get to fight a centurion, and then you get to fight Orchendar himself. You fight him, and then you fulfill Pyrite's wishes, and you obtain Spellbreaker. I think it's a pretty cool quest. I mean, it's definitely up there in terms of plot lines. I wish I understood more about how Pyrite views the disease that he has created as a gift rather than a plague. I would really like to know more about that. So if anybody knows more information about Pyrite's plague, they want to leave that in the comments below, please do. I would love to know more about that. Just as long as it's not a spoiler for, say, Morrowind or Oblivion. So now, Ill Met by Moonlight. That is the Daedric Prince Hircine's quest. It's the one where you get to choose between the Ring of Hircine or the Savior's Hide, depending on your decisions that you make during the quest. And for this reason, I think that this quest is just really excellent because you do get a choice. And I think that quests like that are really special and they're rare. So I definitely took that into account when judging this quest. It starts out with this couple who has lost their daughter to this vicious werewolf attack. And you find out that the man who's done it is in the jails. So you go and you see him, and he explains to you that he did not want to attack this little girl. In fact, he did everything that he could in order to stop his transformations. He thought that stealing the Ring of Hircine from the Daedric Prince would stop his transformations and allow him to control them so that he wouldn't do something like that. And what ended up happening was Hircine cursed the ring and he transformed at the worst moment and ends up killing this little girl, and he feels guilty about it. So you get a choice between hunting him down and killing him, or hunting the hunters and allowing him to live. And it's sort of a interesting moral dilemma that you have, because on the one hand, here's this man who, you know, he killed a little girl, and there should be some degree of punishment for that, but at the same time, it wasn't his intention. He tried not to. He didn't want to do this, and so he's in a sense someone who is being hunted down out of fear and revenge and all of these other things, and you are pursuing him with that understanding. But then on the other hand, if you choose to side with him, you're killing hunters who are just basically doing their job. Like they're just doing what is for the protection of Falkreath. They're not bad people necessarily, and you don't really know their backgrounds or anything like that. So you have to make this really difficult moral decision when it comes to that quest on like what is the right thing to do in that scenario, what is or the better decision to make. And I think that that's really interesting, and I like that degree of complexity to this quest. I like that it's not clean cut. There's not, you know, most of the Daedric quests have to do with decisions that are immoral. You know, like with Boethiah, where you have to sacrifice an innocent person to our altar in order to do the quest. I think that this one has more of a degree of moral ambiguity. And I think that that's what's really interesting about it. And that's why I rank it so highly. And then, of course, you know, as I've said before, there is that element of horror. There are werewolves in it. And that also, you know, sways my opinion. Someone else might have put it in a lower tier than me because they don't have that sort of personal opinion about, you know, horror and horrific elements. So in that case, that might be skewing my opinion up. But in my opinion, this is an S tier quest. Let's talk about Waking Nightmare. When you go to Dawnstar, you discover that everyone in the city is being plagued by these nightmares every night. There's this one priest named Arendor who says he's a priest of Mara, who explains that the reason for these nightmares is because of the Skull of Corruption, which is hungry for people's memories. And the way he explains it is just like a cough indicates disease, the nightmares indicate the theft of these memories. So he wants you to go to the temple to destroy the Skull of Corruption so that the people can stop having these nightmares. So when you go up there, you find out that the temple is being filled with this miasma, which is basically a substance that holds you in time, and you can't enter the miasma, and everyone inside of the miasma is being frozen in time. In a sense, they are stuck inside, so you have to find a way in. And then once you find a way in through this potion, and you enter the memories of someone who was there at the time that the miasma was released. And you find out that the memories of the person you're inhabiting was the one who released the miasma, and then he ran away. So once you enter the miasma, you're able to lift it. And then once you lift it, then you're able to go in. And you find these priests of Varmina who are still alive down there in the temple. And they recognize Arendor as the guy they asked to release the miasma. And they blame him for leaving them in that state, for just up and going and escaping. And Arendor's like, I didn't want to go to sleep. I wasn't ready to sleep. And so you find out that he, like, from their perspective, betrayed them, which is a cool little twist. Like, throughout the entire thing, Arendor is lying to you. He calls himself a priest of Mora. He doesn't tell you right off the cuff that he was ever a follower of Varmina. He doesn't reveal any of that to you. He kind of just lets you, believe that he's just a priest of Mara, interested in quelling the nightmares of the people of Dawnstar. And he never tells you the truth. And so you're really suspicious of this guy. So when the Daedric prince, Varmina, asks you to kill him, you can be all for it. Now, if you don't kill him, he does become a follower. But if you do kill him, you get the Skull of Corruption. The Daedra Prince Varmira tells you that if you allow him to live, he'll betray you. He doesn't betray you or anything. That's a lie that Varmira is telling you, probably to protect the skull. What's really interesting and intriguing about this quest is the fact that, not everyone you meet is going to tell you the truth. And it's interesting to run into a character who's trying to hide his darker past. And, to know that, he was once the one who was stealing the memories. He was the one that was okay with that, and trying to repent for it, I think, but ending up just seeming like a traitor on both ends. I think that was just a very interesting quest line. I also very much like the concept of an entire town being plagued by these nightmares and not knowing the reason, not knowing where they're coming from. And, the idea of this weapon that is fueled by memories, fueled by nightmares. I would actually rank this one quite high. The next one I want to talk about is Daedra's best friend. It's Clavicus Vile's quest. You encounter this dog named Varyless who tells you that he has been separated from his master, Clavicus Vile, and that he wants you to escort him back to Clavicus. So you bring him back, you find a bunch of vampires, you have to kill those vampires. And then when you get to Clavicus, he tells you, oh, thank you so much for helping my children. They were suffering from vampirism and they had asked me for a cure for years, and you resolved all that by the killing. And so you ask him to take Varyless back, and he tells you, well, where are you going to give me? And then he tells you, well, there is this axe, the rueful axe, that he wants you to go and retrieve. And if you talk to Varyless about it, he tells you that actually it's sort of like a little joke that Clavicus played when this man named Sebastian Lot's daughter turned into a werewolf. He asked Clavicus what he could do to cure her, and Clavicus gave him the axe. So when you go to retrieve the axe, you have to fight Sebastian for it. When you go to give it back, Clavicus Vile gives you the option of keeping the axe by killing Varyless. Who kills Varyless? Who knows? I would never kill Varyless. But if you go ahead and you tell him no, you need to accept Varyless back, Clavicus explains to you that he is not fully powerful without his better half, Varyless. So he would actually be doing a detriment to himself by you killing Varyless. The quest isn't bad. You get to fight vampires. You get to have a little cute dog companion with you for quite a while. You can even leave with him after talking to Clavicus about the rueful axe. You can leave, and Varyless will follow you on other quests until you complete Clavicus's quest. So it's actually really nice to have a little dog companion, I have to admit. I think the decisions of a lot of the Daedric princes can be kind of confusing. Like, for instance, the fact that it would be disadvantageous, according to Clavicus Vow, for you to kill Barbarous because it would literally cut his power in half. And then when you're wondering why he wants the axe in the first place, because it seems like such a inconsequential thing, he tells you it's because he could have a bit of fun with it. So the decisions of these Daedric princes sometimes just seem a bit petty. So this is definitely one of them that it seems like a lot of the decisions and the requests are petty ones. But I like a lot of elements in this quest, so I think I would rank this one in the B tier. So Hermaeus Mora's quest starts with Septimus. And I love Septimus. Septimus has all of this really, really funny dialogue.
It licked the panes and smokes the glass.
And I think that that really is what makes it for me, because the quest itself, you just collect blood from different elves. It's kind of tedious. It's really best to take this quest early in the game so that as you come across these different elves, you can just collect the blood then, you know, as you find them, rather than trying to collect it, you know, all at once. So it's not like terribly interesting. I mean, basically that's it. You fix a cube and you collect blood. It's a very boring quest. And you know, it's sad because Hermaeus Mora is based on Cthulhu, and he's actually quite cool. Although he talks way too slow, and I'm pretty sure he's unskippable. I've tried skipping him, and I can't. He's unskippable. You know, and I think the only reason I'm not putting this in F tier is because of Septimus's lines. You know, they're just so funny. Okay, so next we have Pieces of the Past. This is Maroon Dagon's quest. So you meet this guy who set up this museum in Dawnstar dedicated to the mythic Dawn. And I think the main thing that really intrigues me about this quest plot-wise is the fact that it's about the mythic Dawn, because I am so interested in the mythic Dawn. I want to learn more about them through the games. I don't want to, you know, read anything about them outside of the games. I want to play the games first and see what I learn through the games, like through Morrowind, Oblivion. You know, I definitely want to learn more about the mythic Dawn though. I just want to know more about the things that they've done. But this quest is quite fun. I mean, you go to various different locations and fight enemies for the pieces of Maroon's Razor, and then once you have the whole thing put together, you go to the altar, and then the Daedric Prince asks you to kill Celis, the guy who runs the museum. And once you kill him, the razor's repaired, and then the Daedric Prince will actually send Dremora after you, and you kill the Dremora. And then if you decide to go into the little cave thing in front of you, there are more Dremora in there. So it's quite a cool quest. It has multiple different steps to take, and there are enemies to fight, and the mythic Dawn's involved. And for all of those reasons, I feel like it belongs in the B tier. Okay, and finally, the skeleton key. I have to admit, I think I might have gotten this a bit wrong in the Daedric artifacts tier list in terms of it actually being a Daedric artifact. I read that it doesn't count as a Daedric artifact, so I just wanted to clear that up. I still want to talk about it today though, because it is still linked to a Daedric prince, Nocturnal, so I still think that it belongs here. Out of all the quests that we've talked about so far, this one I just love this quest so much. To be specific, if we're talking about Nocturnal's quest, or we're talking about the skeleton, we're talking about the Thieves Guild questline. The Thieves Guild questline is actually one of my favorite faction questlines as well. It's just one of the best written. So much attention was paid to detail in this quest, and drama and heartache and betrayal. I'm just gonna say this again for anyone who's watching. If you have not played the Thieves Guild questline, please stop the video right now and go play the questline. You would be doing yourself a disservice if you let me ruin this for you. Trust me. I just want to tell y'all the story of when I first did the Thieves Guild questline. When we got to the point where we were about to confront Carlia and I met up with Mercer Frey, I actually didn't know how to get into the sanctum. And that might sound ridiculous, but I think that it might have been a glitch, because when we went up to the door, I couldn't get in. There was no way to get in. And Mercer wouldn't open it. Like, there was just no way to get in. And so instead of completing the quest at that point, I just left and didn't realize that Mercer would actually follow me at that time, but he did. And so this entire time I had been going through multiple quests with Mercer following me and doing his like little one-liners and everything. And I sort of like had sort of a, I don't know, kind of the way I feel about Lydia, you know, like sort of like a love-hate relationship for Mercer. So I kind of felt like he was, you know, part of everything. You know, I had as much of a bond as you could have with an NPC. I had that with Mercer. And so when I found out about his betrayal, it just like, it hit. It hit. And I don't know if it would have hit the same if I would have gotten into the temple right away. If I wouldn't have, you know, had him through all of the other quest lines. You know, I don't know how it would have changed my perspective on things, but I can tell you this though, I have a great deal of respect for the writers of the Thieves Guild questline. I think it's one of the best quest lines that they have in the game. I think that it includes all of these really great elements, and I really do like the idea of, you know, building something from the ground up. And that's essentially what you're doing in the Thieves Guild questline. I mean, they're down on their luck. Like they're disrespected, and you have to bring them back to glory. Wrapped up in that, you get to try really cool armor during the quest line and several pieces. You get to upgrade it. In terms of just like the plethora of trainers you obtain access to, it's just so nice. You know, and honestly, the skeleton key is the least important thing about the quest line. The actual artifact I could care less about, but the actual quest line is just freaking amazing. I am just, whew. All of the characters, their unique personalities, the way that they are, why they're here. I think that the only real like issues I have with the questline are the fact that, you know, there are some threads left loose. That sort of brings a degree of realism to it as well. I mean, like the man who was orphaned and then like Sapphire's background specifically are some threads that are left loose. But I think that that does create a certain degree of realism to it, which is really nice. And there are so many like cool people that you get to meet and are involved with the Thieves Guild questline as well, such as Maven Blackbriar, who has a really cool family, and what she's doing is kind of interesting. And I know that this one is like more of a faction questline. So if y'all want me to talk about like the different factions and which ones I think have the best questlines, I can do a tier list on that as well. I just wanted to really zero in on the fact that this is technically a Daedric questline in a sense. You do skeleton key missions, and that's nocturnal, so it definitely does belong here. But I think that it also would belong in a discussion on faction questlines specifically as well. So if y'all want to see that, just let me know in the comments. I had a ton of fun doing this tier list. I want to thank Celestia, who commented encouraging me to do the Daedric quest tier list. And if there are any other tier lists that y'all would like me to do, please let me know in the comments. And if you've recommended something in the past, thank you so much. Thank you so much for watching, and if you're not afraid, you can subscribe. Bye, y'all.